Time to pull up a chair. We've got another great story for you today in the rLounge. They say love is blind, but in this case, it was also easily fooled by bad Photoshop. Today in the rLounge, we've got two peas in a toxic pod. One sister who manufactures fake cheating evidence like it's an Etsy side hustle, and another who believes it without question. Sister-in-law spreads lies about me to ruin my marriage. Wife defended her, so I divorced her and ruined sister-in-law's marriage. I met my now ex-wife at a friend's New Year party. The first few months were incredible. She was smart, funny, and seemed genuinely interested in me as a person. After about 2 months, we decided to be exclusive. Around this time, she started mentioning her older sister frequently. According to her, they were extremely close. Practically twins despite the age gap, was how she described their relationship. She talked about her sister with such admiration that I was actually looking forward to meeting her. The first time I met her sister and brother-in-law, I could immediately tell something was off. Her sister barely made eye contact with me and spent most of the evening making subtle comments about my clothes, my haircut, and even questioning how serious I was about the relationship. A couple months later, when my girlfriend and I decided to move in together, her sister's disapproval became more obvious. She kept saying things like, "Don't you think you're rushing into this?" and "You barely know each other." My girlfriend always would defend her sister, saying she was just looking out for her best interests. I tried to be understanding, but it was clear her sister had decided to dislike me before even getting me a chance. The real problem started at a family gathering. I went to grab another drink and overheard her sister talking to a cousin, saying she didn't trust me and thought I was hiding something. When I proposed a few months later, my girlfriend was ecstatic. We announced our engagement at a family gathering, and while everyone else seemed happy for us, her sister barely congratulated us and left early with some flimsy excuse. A week later, my fiancé told me her sister had concerns about me and thought we should postpone the wedding. When I asked what those concerns were specifically, she was vague, saying her sister just felt we were moving too fast. Our first major fight happened when I discovered my fiancé had been sharing intimate details about our relationship with her sister. Not just normal stuff, but private conversations and even details about our sex life. Her sister had apparently been analyzing everything I said and did, telling my fiancé I was showing red flags. I was furious, not just at her sister for overstepping, but at my fiancé for violating my privacy. Things reached a boiling point during Christmas Eve dinner. Her sister pulled me aside and bluntly told me she thought I would make her sister miserable and that she would make sure our marriage wouldn't last if we went through with it. It wasn't said as a joke. It was a threat. I immediately told my fiancé, who claimed her sister was just joking and that I was being too sensitive. Despite all of this, we got married a couple months later. Her sister was the maid of honor, which I wasn't thrilled about, but I wanted to keep the peace. During her toast, she made several passive-aggressive comments disguised as jokes about how she hoped I would finally prove her wrong and that she'd always be there for her sister, no matter what happens. About a month after the wedding, my wife started acting distant. When I asked what was wrong, she reluctantly told me her sister claimed to have seen me with another woman at a cafe downtown. I was completely blindsided. I hadn't been to any cafe with any woman. I told her that this was absurd and asked for details, but she was vague about when this supposedly happened. I offered to show her my location history on my phone to prove I hadn't been there, but she said she didn't want to be that wife who checks up on her husband. Yet, a couple of weeks later, I caught her doing exactly that, checking my phone while I was in the shower. When confronted, she admitted her sister had suggested I might be cheating and had convinced her to look for evidence. I gave her my phone passwords and told her she could check any time if it would give her peace of mind. Then came the bombshell. My wife came home crying one day, saying her sister had shown her evidence that I'd been unfaithful. Screenshots of supposed dating app profiles and texts to other women. I had never created any dating profiles or texted other women inappropriately. I asked to see those supposed screenshots. They were obviously fake. The dating profile used an old photo of me from before I even met my wife, and the texts were completely fabricated. I pointed out inconsistencies, the wrong font for the messaging app I use, my incorrect phone number displayed, and timestamps that made no sense. My wife seemed unsure, so I suggested we show these screenshots to a friend of mine who works in tech security. My friend confirmed what I already knew. The screenshots were doctored. He pointed out several technical details that proved they were manipulated. I thought this would be the end of it, but my wife refused to believe him. She insisted her sister wouldn't lie about something so serious. I was at my wit's end. I needed concrete proof that her sister was deliberately trying to sabotage our marriage, so I did something I'm not proud of, but felt necessary at the time. I installed a voice-activated recorder in our living room before inviting her sister over to talk things out while my wife was at work. The conversation went exactly as I expected. At first she acted innocent, claiming she was just looking out for her sister. But when I pressed her about the fake screenshots, she eventually slipped up. The recorder caught her admitting to fabricating everything because she thought I wasn't good enough for her sister. She even laughed about how easy it was to convince my wife I was cheating because she's always been gullible. I couldn't wait to play this recording for my wife. I genuinely thought this would be the moment she'd finally see her sister for who she really was. When I played the recording, my wife's reaction shocked me. Instead of being angry at her sister for lying, she was furious at me for trapping her sister. She accused me of editing the recording to make her sister sound bad. She demanded I apologize to her sister for invading her privacy. That night, I couldn't sleep, thinking about how my marriage was falling apart because of one person's vendetta against me. I decided to fight back. If her sister was going to play dirty, so would I. I hired a private investigator to look into her background, suspecting there might be more to her hatred of me than simple protectiveness. The PI came back with information that exceeded my expectations. Her sister had been having an affair with her husband's best friend for over a year. The PI provided photos, hotel receipts, and even screenshots of explicit text messages between them. This wasn't just a one-time mistake, it was a long-term betrayal. Armed with this information, I sat my wife down for what I knew would be our last conversation as a married couple. I laid out everything: the recording of her sister admitting to lying, the evidence of her affair, and how her sister's manipulation had destroyed our marriage. I gave her an ultimatum: either she stands with me against her sister's lies, or our marriage is over. She chose her sister. She claimed I was obsessed with proving her sister wrong and that hiring a PI showed how unhinged I'd become. She said even if her sister had lied about me cheating, I'd gone too far by stalking her. When I pointed out the hypocrisy, her sister could lie about me, but I couldn't expose her sister's actual infidelity. She just repeated that I should have been the bigger person. I moved out the next day and filed for divorce. I anonymously sent all the evidence of the sister's affair to her husband with a note. A few days later, I heard through a friend that the brother-in-law had confronted his wife about the affair and she'd confessed. They were separating. Then my wife showed up at my apartment. She was furious, screaming that I'd destroyed her family by exposing her sister. I let her rant for a few minutes before telling her that her sister had destroyed our marriage first, and karma's a witch. I closed the door on her face. Over the next week, I received dozens of texts from my wife, suddenly begging to reconcile now that she sees the truth about her sister. Apparently, after the brother-in-law confronted her sister, more details about the affair came out, including the fact that it had been going on for years, not just 1 year as the PI had discovered. My wife finally realized her sister was capable of lying, but it was too late for us. I blocked her number and instructed my lawyer to handle all communication going forward. The divorce proceeded quickly. We had a prenup, so there wasn't much to dispute. I sold the house we had bought together and moved into a new apartment across town. So that's my story. Update. It's been 2 months since everything imploded, and I figured I'd update you all on the fallout. First, thanks for all the supportive comments on my original post. The divorce is proceeding smoothly. We had a prenup, so the financial separation is straightforward. My ex keeps trying to schedule talks outside of the legal process, but I've refused. Everything goes through the lawyers now, no exceptions. Despite my blocks, my ex-wife continues trying to contact me through people we know. She's been telling everyone who will listen that she made a terrible mistake, and now she realizes her sister was manipulating her all along. Too little, too late. One of her friends messaged me saying, "She's been calling me crying almost every night about how she misses you and how she should have believed you." I told him I appreciate the update, but I'm not interested in hearing about her regrets. I've maintained complete no contact with her, which has been easier than I expected. When you realize someone was willing to believe the worst about you without evidence, the desire to speak to them again pretty much evaporates. The most interesting development has been with my ex-sister-in-law and her husband. I learned from a friend that he filed for divorce and is going for everything he can after discovering the affair wasn't her first. Apparently, she's been unfaithful throughout the entire 8-year marriage. The PI I hired only scratched the surface. Her husband reached out to me through social media. He wasn't angry about me sending the evidence. He was grateful. He said he'd had suspicions for years, but she always managed to make him feel paranoid for questioning her. Sound familiar? He said seeing the concrete proof finally gave him the courage to leave. He also shared some information that confirmed what I always suspected. My ex-sister-in-law had been actively trying to break up our marriage from day one. According to him, she would regularly make comments about how she thought I was beneath her sister and how she was going to open her eyes eventually. The real karma hit when my ex-sister-in-law lost her apartment after her husband cut off financial support. She'd never worked full-time during their marriage, and suddenly she was facing real-world consequences. Guess where she ended up? Moving in with my ex-wife, creating even more drama between them as they're forced to live together. A guy I know who lives in their building told me they fight constantly. Apparently the dynamic has completely shifted. My ex-wife finally realized how toxic her sister has always been, but now she's stuck with her. The sister who spent months convincing my ex that I was terrible is now eating her food and sleeping on her couch. Poetic justice, if you ask me. The ex-sister-in-law's affair partner's wife even contacted me to thank me for exposing the affair. She had suspected for months but couldn't prove it. Now she's divorcing her husband too, and according to her, he's devastated that his real relationship with my ex-sister-in-law wasn't so real after all. Turns out my ex-sister-in-law has been telling him she was going to leave her husband for him, but never actually intended to. I ran into my ex-wife's cousin at a store last week. I tried to avoid her, but she spotted me and came over. She told me the sisters are now fighting constantly, with my ex finally realizing how toxic his sister has always been. According to the cousin, my ex-sister-in-law has been bringing random guys back to the apartment, leaving messes everywhere, and not contributing financially. My ex is apparently at her wit's end, but feels obligated to help her sister since family sticks together. My divorce was finalized yesterday. I'm doing better than expected. Thanks again for all the support. I probably won't post another update. Liar, liar, pants on fire. Update 2. First, the divorce is completely finalized. All assets have been divided. Paperwork signed, and I've officially moved on legally from my ex-wife. The prenup made things relatively straightforward, though she did try to contest. The breaking point came when my ex-wife returned home early from a weekend trip to find her sister in bed with a guy my ex-wife had briefly dated before meeting me. Yes, you read that correctly. The sister who spent months convincing my ex that I was unfaithful was sleeping with my ex's former boyfriend in my ex's own bed. She finally kicked her sister out. Apparently it was an epic confrontation that ended with my ex physically throwing her sister's belongings into the hallway and changing the locks. After getting kicked out, my ex-sister-in-law tried staying with various friends, but nobody wanted her around for long. Her reputation is completely destroyed within their social circle. Her divorce from her husband was finalized, and from what I've heard, she got almost nothing in the settlement. She admitted to fabricating all the evidence of my supposed cheating and manipulating her sister into believing the worst about me. She even confessed that she'd done similar things to her sister's previous relationships, though never to this extent. The letter ended with her saying she's now in therapy, living in a small apartment, working a retail job, and trying to rebuild her life from scratch. She didn't ask for forgiveness or a response, just said she thought I deserved to know the truth. I didn't respond to the letter. There's nothing I could say that would change anything, and frankly, I don't care about her journey to becoming a better person. That's her problem, not mine. On a more positive note, I've started seeing someone new. I've also reconnected with my ex's sister-in-law's husband, now ex-husband. We're not close friends, but we occasionally grab a beer. He's dating someone new as well. The affair partner's wife also reached out recently to let me know her divorce is finalized and she's doing well. She thanked me again for bringing the affair to light, saying she might still be stuck in that marriage if I hadn't exposed the truth. It's nice to know that at least something positive came out of this mess. This will be my final update on this situation. Both of them deserve matching crowns. Your ex-wife just ate it up like gospel, never once stopping to ask why her sister, the woman whose own marriage was a dumpster fire, was suddenly an expert on healthy relationships. She watched her sister fabricate fake evidence, destroy her relationship, and manipulate everyone around her, and still had the nerve to call you obsessed? Please. The only thing you were guilty of was understanding how deep the family crazy ran. Do you have a similar story? Share it with us in the comments below. And thank you for joining us today in the rLounge. Be sure to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on our next video. Until next time. And please put your chair back where you found it.